Revealed, the sinister secrets of a haunted truck stop in northern Ontario's darkest hours. The night fell heavy over the desolate stretch of highway. Wind whipped fiercely at the truck stop, a lone beacon in the sprawling darkness. Inside, Sarah's heart raced. It wasn't just the foul weather, something sinister lingered in the air. Shadows danced on greasy tables under flickering fluorescent lights, the howling outside mingling with the nervous whispers of customers. This was no ordinary night shift. This was a descent into the unknown. It had been weeks since Jack, the friendly trucker known for his generous tips, vanished without a trace. The diner, once abuzz with chatter, now felt haunted by an unnerving silence. Sarah poured coffee, not just to serve, but to distract herself from the unease gnawing at her insides. Her co-workers exchanged fearful glances, their camaraderie replaced with palpable anxiety. They were on edge, unable to shake the feeling that they were being watched, hunted. The snow began to pile outside, transforming the world into a white abyss. As she glanced out, she caught glimpses of headlights disappearing into the thick woods. There was an urgency behind those blips of light, a sense of desperation that crawled over her skin. Her pulse quickened with every strange sound: the hiss of the coffee machine, the rattle of the door, and the soft murmurs of restless patrons. Each noise felt like a reminder that something or someone was out there. "Do you see that guy?" a trucker murmured, breaking the tension. Sarah turned to see a polished businessman, impeccably dressed yet unsettlingly cold. His sharp smile seemed to slice through the growing dread. He didn't belong in this small town, not with that aura of entitlement and danger. Fear twisted in Sarah's gut. Who was he really? Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As the hours dragged on, the air in the diner thickened with tension. Sarah could feel it pressing down, stifling. Whispers about missing people bounced off the walls, stories of corruption intertwined with fear. The waitress's hands trembled as they wiped down tables, avoiding eye contact with the businessmen. Something terrible had happened, and she was caught in the eye of the tempest. The diner, once her refuge, now felt like a trap, echoing with the memories of those who had vanished. Shadows painted over the walls. Then, in the midst of that growing storm, an urgent knock shattered the stillness. Heart racing, Sarah turned toward the door. A hooded figure stood outside, half hidden by swirling snow. Panic gripped her. Every warning she'd overheard flooded back. Those who knocked at night bore burdens of truth or darkness. Should she open the door? With dread pooling in her stomach, she hesitated. The silhouette twisted, revealing an unsettling familiarity. Just then, her phone buzzed ominously in her pocket, an unknown number flashing on the screen with a frantic message: "Do not trust them. They know about your children." Chills shot down her spine. The tightening grip of the horror surrounding her tightened further. Sarah felt the walls closing in, the weight of nightmares pressing against her. She had to make a choice: confront this terror, or succumb to its advance. Outside, the whispers grew louder, and the figure continued to linger. Trust had been shattered. In that moment, she realized, the real nightmare was only just beginning. The knock came again, more insistent this time, rattling the door on its hinges. Sarah felt as if the world outside was closing in, the wicked wind howling like a hungry beast, demanding entry. The hooded figure remained still, waiting. Shadows danced around the diner, flickering with every gust of wind that pounded against the glass. "Sarah, are you gonna get that?" one of her co-workers, Tina, whispered, eyes wide with fear. The question pierced the thick atmosphere, as everyone fell silent, their breaths held. "No, I can't," Sarah managed to say, her own voice sounding foreign. What if it was danger? What if it was someone looking for Jack? The knowledge that something terrible had happened gnawed at her. The fear in the diner felt contagious, infecting her thoughts, twisting them into dark spirals. The buzzing in her pocket intensified, the message weighing heavier than before: do not trust them. They know about your children. Sarah's heart pounded like a drum, urgency flooding her limbs. She glanced at the businessman, who was now watching her. His once charming smile twisted into unsettling confusion, as if he sensed the chaos coiling around her. Suddenly, the figure outside took a step forward, the hood falling back like a shedding skin. Her breath hitched. It was someone she recognized, a face from the past, marred by the time lost and events best left buried. Daniel, her brother, was supposed to be thousands of miles away, buried in his own life, far from this frozen nightmare. Sarah! Open the door. His voice echoed, raw with desperation. It sent vibrations through her chest, igniting long-dormant memories. But even as relief washed over her, a wave of caution followed. Why was he here? Before she could unbolt the door, the lights flickered violently, plunging the diner into shadow. Gasps filled the air, senses heightened to a dreadful pitch. The flickers seemed to pause time, and in that heartbeat of darkness, the atmosphere shifted. The nightmare crept closer, then came a scream, piercing through the storm. It originated from the back of the diner, where the kitchen doors hung ajar. Sarah's gut twisted, she darted her eyes toward the sound, dread intertwining with instinct. Stay put. She yelled to her co-workers, but her own words felt hollow, swallowed by the encroaching fear. Every fiber of her being pulled her to investigate. Just outside the kitchen area, the dim glow of a single bulb lit up a figure hunched over on the ground. Please, the voice trembled, cold and desperate. It was another face she recognized, Marcy, another waitress, staring at something beneath her. Marcy! Sarah rushed forward, her heart threatening to explode. The kitchen floor was slick with something dark. Sarah, it's him, Marcy stuttered, pointing at the pool of crimson growing larger. Her face paled the closer Sarah got until she felt the icy finger of terror touch her brain. A body lay lifeless on the ground, and just to the side a familiar trucker's cap. It was Jack, his eyes wide and lifeless, locked in an endless stare of horror. Sarah recoiled, stumbling back as the full weight of the nightmare crashed into her like a wave. What happened? A whisper escaped her as she struggled to breathe. Marcy's eyes darted toward the door, panic surfacing. It was him. The businessman. He did this. In a moment of pure instinct, Sarah swung her head towards the cold man who merely watched, that sharp smile still intact. She felt the walls close in again, the pulse of fear crashing against her. The truth was unraveling before her. Did he know about Jack? Was he behind all of this? The enormity of the horror pressed down like the weight of the snow outside. Just then, the figure at the door began to shift again, shadows melding into a darker shape, and suddenly, it all made sense, but understanding meant facing the truth she dreaded the most. Sarah! We need to go. Daniel shouted from outside, breaking her trance, but at that moment, she realized her worst fear: leaving meant confronting whatever lay beyond the door, and with the businessman's predatory gaze locked on her, she faced a choice that would test her sanity more than any storm ever could. What truth awaited her beyond that door? Daniel's voice echoed with urgency, cutting through Sarah's fog of shock. The pulse of the diner was a symphony of fear, each heartbeat thumping louder in her ears. She stood frozen, torn between the past that knotted her heart and the peril looming just outside the door. Sarah! Daniel urged again, voice cracking. They've found me. We can't linger here. The hooded figure shifted, darkness cloaking his features again. The businessman's gaze was like ice, sending a chill that wrapped around Sarah's spine. If the world outside was a beast, then this man was its master, and she could feel both hunting her. Go! Marcy screamed, startling Sarah from her stupor. We can't stay. We need to leave. The urgency clawed at Sarah, but dread kept her feet cemented to the floor. "Sarah! Open the door!" Daniel was begging now, desperation bleeding through every word. The memories flooded back: family dinners, laughter, the warmth of brotherly love. But now, with Jack gone and the businessman's dark intentions veiled, those memories felt like ghosts, shadows of a happier time fading in the snowstorm of this moment. I can't leave him," Sarah whispered, feeling the weight of Jack's lifeless body as a stone in her gut. Marcy's eyes glistened with unshed tears. Suddenly, the lights flickered again, more violently this time, before extinguishing into a deafening darkness. Silence enveloped the diner, thick and suffocating. Sarah's breath quickened as she squinted into the void, heart racing. It felt like time itself had stopped, leaving only the pulse of her fear. Then, out of the silence came a soft scuffle, followed by a whisper carried through the air like a ghost. "Sarah, I'm so sorry." It was Jack's voice, or at least it seemed to be. Panic struck her anew, a sharp knife twisting in her chest. Was this another trick? A cruel joke from the beyond? "Don't give in. It's not him," Marcy shouted, frantically shaking her head as if to shake off the sound. Just then, an ear-splitting crash rang out from the kitchen, shattering the stillness. The entire diner seemed to shudder, walls trembling under some unseen weight. "It's coming!" the businessman hissed. There was no charm in his smile now, only malice as he pushed towards the door, a predator cornering its prey. The others were backing away, fear pressing them toward the far side of the diner. "Move, Sarah!" Tina's eyes were wide, panic arranging her features into an ugly mask. Before Sarah could react, the kitchen door swung open and a figure emerged shrouded in darkness, a shape shifting and twitching. It was as if shadows had taken form, moving with a barely contained rage. The presence loomed larger and larger until it poured into the room like smoke. Daniel's voice sliced through again, raw and urgent. "Sarah! I can't hold it back. Get out!" The darkness flared, tendrils reaching for her. The businessman began to laugh, a low, guttural sound reverberating through the diner, echoing Sarah's deepest fears. "Leave her!" Daniel screamed, stepping forward in an act of desperation. But the shadows surged. "Sarah!" he shouted just as a deafening roar erupted, drowning her in a wave of chaos. All at once, the world exploded into sound and fury. Struggling to breathe, Sarah finally found her feet. She bolted toward the door, the icy grip of fear chasing her. No! But it was too late. The shadows lunged for her, Daniel's face a mask of horror behind her. Time seemed to stretch, stretching the moment into an eternity of terror. What would she face if she dared to cross that threshold? And if Daniel couldn't hold back the darkness, what would become of them all? The door swung open, releasing an unforgiving winter storm that beckoned both a refuge and a terror in its own right. "Sarah! Please!" Daniel reached out, but the shadows engulfed him. Heart racing, Sarah teetered on the precipice, grappling with the decision to step back into the familiar warmth or embrace the unknown that waited outside. Something dark was closing in around her, and the air crackled with danger. Could she trust her brother? What if the truth was worse than the storm? With a final glance at the flickering diner, she inhaled deeply, bracing for whatever lurked ahead. The wind howled like an angry spirit as Sarah stumbled into the storm. Snow whipped around her, biting at her flesh like 1,000 icy knives. The diner's warm glow faded as she stepped away from the threshold, swallowed by the dark night. Panic clawed at her chest, she dared not look back. In the distance, behind the swirling snow, she heard Daniel's voice, strained and panicked. "Sarah!" Don't. The sound faded as the roar of the wind consumed it, twisting it into something unrecognizable. She pressed forward, lungs burning, the freezing air slicing through her. The landscape was desolate, an endless expanse of white, shadows shifting beneath the veil of snow. Every crunch underfoot sent electric jolts through her frazzled nerves, making her feel exposed, like prey in a wild hunt. "Keep moving. She whispered to herself, each word a challenge against the chaos. She glanced back, and for a fleeting moment, thought she spotted the dark figure, the businessman, standing in the entrance of the diner, silhouetted against the flickering light. His presence felt like a taunt. Suddenly, a sudden crack echoed from somewhere close. Her heart raced as she turned, scanning the trees lining the edge of the parking lot. Branches creaked and swayed, but the shadows beneath them moved unnaturally. A chill ran down her spine. "Jack," she murmured, almost drowning in the weight of his absence. The thought of him, the warmth of his smile lost forever, opened a wound that had barely started healing. The storm howled louder, a cruel reminder that he was gone and the world around her was far from safe. She moved toward the cover of the trees, hoping they could shield her from whatever dark creature waited beyond their reach. They were just trees, gnarled and twisted, but they offered the slim hope of safety. Each step felt heavy, her limbs cold and clumsy, but she pressed on, her breath coming in sharp gasps. As she approached the line of trees, a sound caught her ear like faint whispering, indistinct yet urgent. She paused, straining to understand. The wind carried strange voices, teasing her with echoes of those she had lost. "Sarah." The whispers intensified, weaving through the storm, wrapping around her like a net. Was it her imagination, or something more sinister? "Don't listen." Denial was the only thing she had left, but the allure of those voices was powerful. Panic surged. "I have to get away." She broke into a run, branches snagging at her clothes like hands trying to hold her back. The whispers faded, chasing her deeper into the shadows, but the darkness held its own secrets she wasn't ready to confront. Suddenly, a figure emerged from the storm, a fleeting shadow darting between the trees. Her heart froze. Sarah stopped, frozen in place. "Who is there?" she called, voice trembling. The silhouette stopped, the storm swirling silently around it. There, in the eye of chaos, stood a familiar face, wide-eyed and expressionless. Jack. Her breath hitched, hope wrestling with horror. The figure stepped forward, eyes glinting with an unnatural light. "No," she whispered, realization slamming into her like a freight train. It wasn't Jack, something else wore his face. Before she could react, the thing lunged, fast and sleek, moving with an ease that sent a jolt of terror through her. She turned to run, heart pounding in her ears, but already she felt the cold dread seeping into her bones. Suddenly, the earth beneath her gave way, a sharp drop into darkness. She stumbled, falling, the world spinning out of control. Fingers clawed at the edge, grasping for life. Terror raged as the shadows reached out, hungry and insatiable below. "Sarah," a distant voice whispered, floating just beyond her grasp. But as she dangled there, teetering on the brink, she realized the truth: there was nowhere to run. The storm bore down, and the darkness had teeth. What awaited her in the depths below, hidden from sight? What secrets lay waiting to be uncovered in the heart of that consuming darkness? The weight of despair pulled Sarah deeper into the chilling blackness. Desperate, she clawed at the icy ground, fingers slipping against the frigid surface. Panic surged as shadows writhed beneath her, whispering her name. "Sarah." It echoed, both familiar and foreign, taunting like an old friend turned adversary. "Help!" she cried, but the sound was swallowed by the storm above. The cold gripped her tighter, paralyzing her will. As she hung there, staring into the abyss, a dim glimmer flickered far below, a piercing beam of light, pulsing like a heartbeat. What secrets lurked in that depths? It felt sentient, drawing her closer. With every ounce of strength, she shifted her weight, trying to find a handhold. The earth crumbled beneath her, small chunks plummeting into the void, their descent swallowed by silence. Was Jack down there? A fleeting thought. She couldn't let despair drag her under. Suddenly, a sharp pain pierced her shoulder as something cold and rough grabbed her, hoisting her up. The world spun back into focus. She found herself face to face with the shadowy figure that had ensnared her thoughts. Its eyes shone with cold malice, a mirror of her deepest fears. Let go, it hissed, voice a slithering whisper, echoing with promises of relief. You belong with us now. Jack will be waiting. No. Instinct took over. She kicked out, all rage and fear. The figure recoiled, momentarily caught off guard. Sarah seized the moment, scrambling up the crumbling edge, clawing her way back to the surface amidst the swirling snow. But the moment she found her footing, the whispering intensified, voices overlapping in a cacophony of dread. Stay with us, adrenaline coursed through her veins as she sprinted through the trees, shadows darting around her. Each branch seemed to stretch out like greedy fingers, eager to tear her apart. The wind shrieked, not just its usual howl but something deeper, mocking, like it had a sinister understanding of her plight. Run! She urged herself, heart racing. The distant glow of the diner flickered in her mind like a beacon of hope, but it felt so far away, as if stretching across a void she would never cross. She stumbled into the clearing and saw it, the diner, lifeless and quiet, its inviting glow mocking her search for sanctuary. But something was wrong. The light flickered erratically, casting shadows that danced in unnatural patterns against the snow. It looked alive, a beast lying in wait. The atmosphere thickened around her, pressing in. Daniel! She shouted, desperation clawing at her throat. No reply. Just the harsh wind, no evidence of life. The doors loomed before her, shadows flickered inside, twisted forms moving too fast for the eye to catch. Every instinct screamed at her to turn away, but she had already come too far. Daniel! The name felt foreign on her lips, coated with fear. She took a step forward, driven by an urge she couldn't explain, an inexplicable pull that whispered promises of secrets waiting to be revealed. A sudden gust blew the door ajar, and it creaked ominously. She glanced back at the night, the dark waves of snow swirling with malevolence, before crossing the threshold into the dim inside. It felt like stepping into the mouth of a beast. The air was heavy and thick, the scent stale. The lights buzzed erratically, shadows curling around corners, stretching, reaching Sarah. Her heart lurched. The familiar voice. Daniel? She called out, stepping further into the den of shadows. But as her eyes adjusted, she saw figures standing motionless, their faces obscured. The flickering lights cast sickly hues over their features, revealing nothing but emptiness. Before she could react, the doors slammed shut behind her with an echo that rattled through her bones. Penetrating laughter echoed, drowning her resolve. What had she stumbled upon? The whispers grew louder, curling around her, ensnaring her in unseen bonds. This was only the beginning, and she had come to learn that from beneath the surface, darkness was watching, waiting. But what truly lay in the heart of the diner? Would she find answers, or was it just another illusion? The storm outside raged on, but inside was a deeper chaos still. Sarah's pulse thrummed in her ears as the laughter faded, but the whispers swirled, wrapping around her like smoke. She blinked into the dimness, trying to make sense of what stood before her. The figures, hunched and silent, seemed to huddle together in the corner, their features shrouded in shadow. Each breath felt labored, as if the air thickened with dread, pushing down on her chest. Daniel? The name left her lips in a tremor, cutting through the heavy silence. No response. Just the shadows flickering, twisting like nightmares that refused to fade even in the light. She stepped closer, drawn to the concealed beings, the pit of her stomach twisting with every step. What if they were the lost souls the whispers so eagerly promised? Stay back, she warned herself, but her body betrayed her will. A flicker of movement caught her eye, a pale hand emerging from the mass. It reached out, trembling, fingers beckoning her forward, urging her to understand what they were hiding. Sarah, the voice was weak, almost broken. It felt like a lifeline. Her heart surged, and she rushed towards it. As she neared, recognition dawned, a face emerged from the shadows. It was Daniel, but his features were distressed, haunted. His eyes were wide, glassy, as though he stood upon the brink of a terrible truth. Don't touch them. He gasped, his voice rasping through the heavy air as fear spilled from his eyes. You can't help them. They're trapped. Trapped? She echoed, a chill coursing through her. What do you mean? He nodded towards the figures, their forms quivering beneath the dim light. They're lost. They were like us once. They came here looking for shelter, and now they can't leave. This place, it holds them. The weight of those words pressed down on her shoulders. A truth she wasn't ready to face. We have to get out of here. She cried. No. He shouted, panic bursting from him, reverberating against the greasy diner walls. You don't understand. The darkness, it knows we're here. It feeds on our fear. The laughter returned, harsher now, derisive. Shadows writhed as they began to converge closer, taking on shapes that stretched and undulated, as if they were drawn by an unseen puppeteer. Sarah's breath quickened, icy fingers wrapping around her throat. Run! Daniel screamed, but it was already too late. The shadows surged forward, a tide of black that swallowed him, yanking him back into the inky depths. She stood frozen, heart pounding, every instinct screaming at her to fight, to flee. The shadows flickered and hissed with glee, their excitement palpable in the air. With a surge of clarity, she turned, sprinting toward the door. But what awaited her there? The laughter grew, a cacophony of cruel amusement that echoed throughout the diner, shaking her to her core. Gripping the doorknob, she twisted and pulled with all her strength. It wouldn't budge. No. She cried, tears pricking her eyes as she glanced back. Faint outlines of the figures swarmed around Daniel, their voices mingling with the flurry of torment. Suddenly, a spotlight illuminated the diner from the exit, flooding everything with bright light. The figures recoiled, severed from their shadows. It felt like a breath of fresh air, but it was only a momentary reprieve. Sarah! A voice boomed suddenly from outside. It wasn't Daniel. It was a deep voice, commanding and unyielding. Get out of there. Now. But where could she go? Back into the darkness that held so many souls. Or into the light that promised safety yet felt foreign. The fear gripped her tighter, making every heartbeat feel like a drum of impending doom. Sarah! The voice called again, urgency clashing with despair. What decision could she make that wouldn't lead to darkness? The shadows were relentless, reforms forming at the edge of her vision. She took a deep breath and leaped toward the beckoning light just as the shadows lunged for her, reaching out with gnarled fingers, grasping for her, threatening to pull her back into the abyss. Would she escape the diner's grip, or was she destined to join the lost in the swirling darkness? The glow flickered, and she felt the pull of two worlds, both claiming her as their own. Sarah propelled herself through the blinding light, the warmth wrapping around her like a long-lost embrace. But as her feet hit the ground outside, she realized that the safety she'd hoped for was an illusion. The diner behind her stood unchanged, a silent monolith that whispered of secrets and shadows. The laughter inside faded, but it lingered in her ears, a taunting echo that made her heart race. Sarah! The deep voice called again, urgent yet distant. She spun around, squinting against the blinding light to see who had come to her aid. But an empty stretch of cracked pavement and flickering neon was all that greeted her. The truck stop felt alive in a different way now. A sense of dread hung in the air, like a thick fog obscuring her thoughts. Anxiety turned her insides to ice, and she shivered involuntarily. Where are you? She yelled, her voice raw with fear and confusion. The light shifted, casting strange shadows that danced along the diner's walls, as if the very building was breathing. She felt the urge to retreat to go back, but the shadows inside called to her, whispering her name, promising clarity and understanding. But they also promised what Daniel had warned about, an ensnarement in darkness. Sarah! The voice grew clearer, resonating with genuine concern. Finally, a figure emerged from behind the rusted old truck parked at the side of the diner. A man, rugged and wild-eyed, his clothes worn and dirty, approached her with urgency. "Get away from there." "Who are you?" she asked, scrambling back. The shadows from the diner seemed to coil behind her, pushing her forward, the laughter flickering in her mind. "I'm just a survivor," he replied, his voice a gravelly whisper. "You've stumbled into something terrible. This place, it feeds. You have to leave. Now." Chills coursed through her. "But I can't just abandon." "Daniel." The name felt like a lifeline, but it also tethered her to the darkness that had nearly consumed her. Did he still need her? Was he still trapped? Forget him. They're all lost. The man's eyes flicked behind her as shadows spilled from the diner once more, a restless mass that wove new shapes, reaching out hungrily, seeking warmth. "This place will take you too." The shutters creaked and clattered as if in agreement, sending a fresh wave of terror through Sarah. "What do you mean?" Panic bubbled over as she backed away, the diner looming behind her, an oppressively dark figure ready to swallow her whole. "Can't we fight against it?" "No." The man nearly shouted, desperation dripping from his tone. "You have to understand. The more you linger, the stronger it gets. We get trapped in our own fears, and it hunts us. You have to look past it. Look beyond the shadows." In a split second, an idea flickered in her mind. What about the light? Wouldn't it weaken them? She glanced back at the diner, the glow from the entrance still shining, but it felt like a veil, something synthetic, meant to lure her closer. "It won't save you," he said gravely. "It just masks the true horror within. The longer you stay here, the more compelled you'll be to return." Each word sent shards of fear racing through her. The shadows ebbed and flowed, eager for her warmth, for her life. But the weight of survival pressed heavily on her shoulders. "Please," she whispered, desperation spilling over. "What do I do?" "Run," he urged, urgency spilling over into his tone. "Run far and fast. Don't stop until you're out of reach. If you want to keep what's left of your soul, you have to run." As the shadows coiled around her, she wavered, caught between two worlds, her heart pounding in her chest. Could she abandon Daniel to this nightmare, or was the risk to herself too great to fathom? With a gasping breath, she dashed away from the diner, racing toward the dark expanse of the night. But as she turned, the shadows screamed, a chorus of terrified voices shouting her name, begging for rescue. "Sarah!" The man's voice rang out like a gunshot, pulling her back. "Don't look back. Keep your eyes forward." She ran and ran, the weight of her decision heavy in her heart. But the shadows followed, relentless, and the diner loomed behind her like a monster waiting for a victim. What awaited her in the blackness ahead? Was freedom even close, or was she merely navigating another trap? The night whispered secrets, but now it was dark and full of dread once again. Sarah sprinted through the darkness, her breath coming in gasps. The shadows pulsed behind her, a restless entity, then surged like a tidal wave crashing against her resolve. Every step felt weighted with dread, and she could almost hear their whispered promises weaving through the night air, urging her to turn back. "Daniel!" She screamed, the name slipping from her lips like a desperate prayer. But the echo only fueled the shadows, transforming into a malicious chorus that twisted her gut with fear. Did his voice still linger somewhere inside that diner? The thought clawed at her insides, but she knew she had to keep running. The pavement felt uneven, each crack a reminder of the emptiness surrounding her. In the distance, flickering lights struggled against the night, each one a beacon, but Sarah had learned too late that brightness could deceive. She forced her eyes ahead, ignoring the pull of the diner, the hunger of the darkness that sought to swallow her. Suddenly, a sharp cry rang out from behind her. "Sarah!" It was the man, his voice hoarse and ragged. "Don't stop. They're coming for you." She refused to look back, but something deep inside made her stumble. Adrenaline shot her pulse into overdrive. Footsteps broke the silence, heavy and sinister. The shadows were no longer just behind her, they were merging with the darkness of the trees, slinking closer, feeding off her fear. A guttural growl sliced through the air as she glanced over her shoulder just in time to see a shape dart between the trees, monstrous and swift. Her heart raced faster, each beat a countdown to inevitable doom. "You have to fight it." The man shouted again, desperation making him sound frantic. "You have to resist." But how? All she felt was terror wrapping around her like a thick shroud. The shadows churned, morphing into grotesque figures, each one a reflection of her own anxieties, a chilling representation of her most fearful thoughts. She saw the faces of those she had lost, ones long gone, but now twisted and mocking, whispering lies into her ears. "You can't escape," they taunted. "You will return. You are one of us now. Enough." She yelled back, daring the nightmare to push her further. In that moment, a flicker of determination lit inside her. "Focus on what matters." The survivor bellowed, now closer, his silhouette cutting through the dim light. "You are stronger than this. Don't let them in." Just then, she felt the ground beneath shift. The presence behind her rippled, slamming down like a wall of darkness. It poured thicker, an oppressive weight shoving her forward. Panic ignited as she fought against the invisible force, every instinct screaming for her to turn back for safety. Biting down on her fear, Sarah spotted a path lit dimly by moonlight, leading toward the outskirts of the truck stop. Taking a deep breath, she veered toward it, hoping and praying it would lead her away from the shadows. The wind howled a haunting song as she burst forth into the clearing. But the path twisted, branches clawing at her, snagging her clothes, pulling her back. She knew she couldn't stop. She could already feel the shadows writhing at her heels, desperate to consume her light. "Sarah! Please!" The man's voice rent through the air, full of urgency and fear. A warning was laced within it. "You have to find the heart of the night. You can break the cycle, but you must choose." Choose. But what was there to choose? The shadows clawed closer, almost engulfing him as his figure melded with the horrific darkness. Torn between running deeper into the unknown or fighting her way back, she gasped for breath, scrambling to make sense of it all. Echoes of laughter mixed with whispered taunts crept back into her mind, threatening to pull her under once again. With the shadows reaching, mingling with the night, Sarah's heart raced. What was the heart of the night? And could she truly escape the nightmare that had awakened within it? The chilling realization hit her. The real horror was not just the darkness surrounding her, but the shadows lurking within her soul. But before she could move, a voice clear and commanding pierced the chaos. "Find the light, Sarah." As she stood frozen, reality shifted, her fate hanging in the balance. Would she take the leap toward clarity, or would the shadows finally have their way? The choice was hers, and in that moment, the night held its breath. A surge of determination stemmed from her exhausted body as Sarah took a step forward. The call to find the light echoed in her mind, a rallying cry against the gathering darkness. But with no clear path, all she felt was the icy grip of dread tightening around her throat. In the shadows, whispers grew louder. They wrapped around her, voices mingling with her own thoughts, casting doubt on her resolve. "There's no escape, you're lost," they hissed, relentless in their assault. She pushed against the encroaching darkness, her feet moving almost instinctively, racing down the narrow path. Every corner of her mind screamed to turn back, to retreat into the familiar terror of the diner where shadows danced across the walls. No. Not this time. Sarah clenched her fists, forcing her thoughts to clear, remembering the man's desperate plea. Find the light she had to, or risk becoming one with the shadows. Then, just ahead, she noticed a faint glow flickering between the trees, the promise of light. Heart pounding, she sprinted toward it, only to feel the air thicken with something unseen, wrapping around her like cold fingers, urging her to falter. Goosebumps danced across her skin. "Keep moving," she whispered to herself, charging forward. But the laughter, the taunts, they took on a life of their own, echoing in her ears, fighting for dominance. "You can't, Sarah, you won't make it." The glow seemed just within reach, but it felt as if the very fabric of the night aligned against her. She stumbled, her knee connecting with the jagged stone. A sharp bolt of pain coursed through her, but she pushed through it, crawling, grasping for the light. Then it happened. A realization hit her like a wave crashing on the shore. The light wasn't merely ahead, it was within her. Those shadows deep within, the darkness they cultivated, fed on her fears. She remembered the faces, the disappointment, the loss, every moment that had clouded her soul with self-doubt. "Stop! You don't own me!" she cried, the sound of her voice breaking through the malevolent laughter. With newfound determination, she rose and charged toward the light, finding strength in her own fury. The glow grew brighter, pulsing rhythmically, as though responding to her resolve. Suddenly, she burst through the trees and came upon an abandoned vehicle, its headlights flickering like a dying star, casting eerie shadows around her. As she stumbled towards it, yearning for warmth, the darkness shifted. The shadows unfurled, watching her with hungry eyes, growing insatiable. Their whispers turned to howls, a cacophony of voices that denounced her efforts. "Futile, you can't escape. You belong here." But Sarah refused to listen. She darted for the vehicle and threw her weight against the door. It swung open with an agonizing creak. Inside, she caught a glimpse of something that sent a chill to her core: a mirror, cracked and splintered, reflecting distorted images of herself. Each shard revealed a different version: fearful, lost, defeated. With every face that flashed before her, she felt the shadows clawing closer, hungry for despair. No, she thought, clenching her eyes shut. She could not let them win. She had to confront her demons, to become whole again. Enough! She screamed, and in that moment, the vehicle shuddered, lights flickering in a desperate show of hope. The shadows recoiled as if struck, their howls fading into silence. Sarah opened her eyes, staring into the mirror. "Face me," she commanded, trembling not from fear, but from a burgeoning sense of power. "You don't control me." The silence hung heavy as she steadied her breath, the air thick with anticipation. Then, one by one, the shadows retreated, whispers dwindling as they faded into the night. But deep within her heart, she felt a chilling embrace of dread linger, one final encroachment, unyielding. Just then, something crackled in the corner of her eye. The light around her dimmed, and a figure emerged from the shadows, cloaked in darkness. It stepped forward, pulse quickening in her veins as fear ignited once more. "Welcome back, Sarah," it breathed, voice like ice. And the night stirred, coiling back into something vast and monstrous, ready to claim what it deemed its own. What had she unleashed? "Let go of her, you coward!" Daniel's voice echoed sharply in the sudden stillness, slicing through the tension like a knife. The figure that had emerged from the shadows faltered for a moment, its grotesque features momentarily exposed, revealing the truth beneath the darkness. Sarah's heart raced as she recognized it, for it wore the mask of her lost brother, a cruel imitation crafted from her deepest fears. "Daniel!" she cried, desperation flooding her voice. "Fight it! It's not you!" The malicious figure grinned, mouth stretching impossibly wide, eyes gleaming with malice. "Oh, but it is!" it hissed, the voice mocking her, swirling with echoing whispers that drowned out reason. "He has always been here, just like you." "No," Sarah retorted, shaking her head vigorously. "He is not part of this. You're lying." Inside, she felt a flicker of her newfound strength, igniting with every pulse of determination. "Let go, Daniel!" she shouted, the words flowing from her as both a plea and a command. "You're stronger than this. We can break free together." For a moment, his eyes flickered with recognition, uncertainty blooming like a flower in the cold. The darkness around him pulsed, hungry, clawing for his essence, and in that chilling second, Sarah knew she had to reach him before the shadows snuffed out all the light that remained. "Don't let them take you." Sarah lunged forward, pulling on the invisible threads that bound them together. "Fight!" The shadows surged as if responding to her call, swirling in a frenzy. Daniel's face, the real one, began to break through the mask of darkness, but they clung to him, tendrils wrapping around his limbs, striving to pull him back into the void. Sarah, he rasped, voice full of pain. I don't know how to win. Trust in your love. She implored, tears streaming down her cheeks. It's stronger than any fear. You're not alone. I'm here. With that declaration, the connection, long battered but never severed, ignited like a firestorm within them. As if reborn, Daniel's form brightened amidst the shadows, pushing back the encroaching darkness with sheer willpower. Sarah felt it too. The shadows shrieked as light flared between them, illuminating the darkest corners of their souls. Together, they stood defiant, energy radiating as if fueled by shared memories and love, a fierce bond built over years. Onlookers from their past flickered momentarily in the light, faces that had offered support and laughter, now manifesting strength in their union. Each laugh, each tear, fueled the light, pushing back against the sinister tide. No more. They shouted in unison, voices intertwining, weaving through the air like a tangible force. We will not be lost. With one final surge, Sarah and Daniel surged forward, crashing into the malevolent figure. The moment felt like an explosion, light bursting forth in a brilliant flash. The shadows recoiled, screams echoing as they were consumed by the radiant brightness, struggling against the purity that surged forward. Then all at once, silence fell, an eerie calm enveloping the eerie sights as the shadows melted away into nothingness, leaving only starlit tranquility where chaos once reigned. As the final remnants of darkness retreated into the depths of night, Daniel and Sarah collapsed, breathless, their bond stronger than ever. A warm glow surrounded them, casting flickering shadows that no longer hid malevolence but danced with simply the remnants of a night they had faced together. Is it over? Daniel asked, weary but hopeful. For now, Sarah sighed, her heart filled with relief. But we have to keep our light close. We can't let fear creep back in. He nodded, pulling her into a tight embrace. Together, then. Always. As they walked back toward the truck stop, the diner loomed less ominously behind them, no longer a hideous beast but rather a memory of what could have been. They weren't merely survivors, they were warriors, equipped with newfound strength and awareness. The truck stop buzzed to life once more, the flickering neon signs splaying color across the snow, each pulse of light a testament to their resolve. Feeling the warmth of safety settle around them, they stepped forward into the light of a new dawn, the horror now behind them. But as they walked away, a chilling whisper danced in the air, barely audible yet undeniable. What about those who are still lost? The flickering lights dimmed, a reminder both haunting and awakens them to the reality they could face again. But with a determined heart, they understood it was worth fighting for. Now, it's your turn. Are you ready to face your fears, to step into the light? You need to subscribe now so you don't miss the next exclusive story. Smash that like button immediately to help feed the algorithm, flood the comments section with your reactions, your theories on what lies ahead, and don't wait even one more second, share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Let us keep this journey alive together.